Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, a.k.a. PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions, the worlds of pop culture, social media, sports, and of course hockey. The NHL Draft, 2018 NHL Draft is on June 22nd. It's right around the corner. And this week, 104 prospects went to Buffalo for the NHL Combine. Met up with NHL teams, had interviews with them. Also had a bunch of skill and fitness tests. And we're speaking to one of those players right now. I'm speaking to forward with the Green Bay Gamblers in the USHL. He's the University of Notre Dame commit. We're with Jack Perbix. Jack, welcome to Popternative.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Yeah, everyone talk to a lot of you players. It just sounds like it was a fun, overwhelming, and intense, but like overall fun experience at the Combine in Buffalo, Jack.
Yeah, it was truly amazing. Actually, like interviewing with the teams that you always grew up wishing that you could play on. It was unbelievable. Like, the Combine portion of it was challenging. Like, I ended up fainting after the VO2 bike test, but it was challenging, but it really pushed you to your limits.
Wow, you fainted.
Yeah, I was walking back to my room, and all of a sudden I wake up and there's 3 medics and 10 people surrounding me.
Well, I didn't hear about that on social media, so that might be instant scoop for Popternative here.
Yeah.
But, what were some of the things that you did to kind of prepare for the Combine? Was there anything that you wanted to make sure that was kind of worked on in case you fainted or something? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, more to the physical side of the Combine portion. Once I got back from Green Bay, I realized I needed to get stronger and faster, and so I visited my trainer down at BFit, actually, in Maple Grove. I visited him Monday through Friday up until I went to the Combine. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that helped me a lot. I didn't expect to faint out there, but I think I was a little dehydrated, and that's what caused that. But yeah, it really helped me physically wise. And more towards the interviews, I just talked with my advisor, and we kind of went over a couple of questions, and he helped me a lot out there.
Talk a little bit about the interview process. You mentioned you got to talk to some NHL teams that you grew up watching. How many interviews did you have, and what were kind of some of the questions in these interviews?
I had interviews with 15 teams, and some of the questions I asked were they usually started out with like explain your family, and so I talked about my dad and my brother, how my brother is drafted to Tampa Bay, and about how my sister's a basketball player, and then they started getting in depth about what do you think your upside to your game is and downside, who do you think you play like. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it was a lot of the same questions, but there were a couple of them that really threw you in the loop. And so it was fun though.
So it sounds like the Perbix are a sports family. Did you all play a lot of sports growing up? Because you say your sister played basketball. Did you play other sports as well with your brother?
Oh yeah, I played baseball, football, soccer. I really played every sport. I didn't quite get to lacrosse because I decided to play golf. But
how important is it for athletes that are focusing on one sport to play other sports? Not a lot of people talk about that anymore. But you look at like Wayne Gretzky and Sidney Crosby. Those players, they played other sports growing up as well.
Yeah, it's fun. When I was young, I never really thought about having a career in hockey. And so I've kind of had to quit a couple sports like baseball and football and really focus on hockey as the years have gone on. But yeah, growing up, I just love to be outside. I love to just enjoy the sports with my friends, and so it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that your brother is a Tampa Bay Lightning draft pick. Is he kind of? I mean, it's early. I mean, the draft is in a couple of weeks, but has he kind of give you some advice, or kind of giving you some little nuggets of wisdom when it comes to kind of maybe not overthinking things? I mean, he kind of went through it, and he can kind of help you. That I feel like that's an advantage that you have over some other players, right?
Yeah, he kind of just tells me like just stay to yourself and be yourself. Don't go out of the way and or just be humble. Like, that's kind of what our family's about, is just being humble. And he's like, whatever team wants you, they'll pick you. And so don't really focus on other teams, and whatever team wants you will pick you.
Who is Jack Perbix on the ice, and who is Jack Perbix off the ice?
On the ice, I'm definitely competitive. Like, I'll get to the point where I'll get in some scrums, like, after the whistle. But, yeah, I like to play really physical, and really I like to drive the puck hard to the net and really play a physical style of game, a 200-foot game. Mm-hmm. I'm more of a playmaker than more of a goal scorer, but I feel like as I start to shoot more, I feel like I'll be able to score a couple more goals and a few more assists. Oh, and off the ice, I think I'm more of like a class act guy. I'm not the guy to just go around and start telling people what to do or all that. Like, I like to sit back and really just enjoy things. I'm respectful to everyone that I meet, and so that's kind of who I am off the ice.
We had Jack Gordiak, who was also at the combine. He said that some of the questions, like, they had some interesting questions, like the NHL teams, and one question was if you were a cat or a dog. Did you get that question?
I did not. The hardest question I got was from the Capitals, and they had a bus on a piece of paper, and like there were arrows pointing both ways, and they asked me what way I was going, and I still cannot figure that out because it looked the same from both sides, and yeah, it was the probably toughest question I've seen.
Oh man, now I'm thinking about that. So it was like a bus?
It was a bus, and then there were arrows pointing both ways, so like it was moving both ways, and then they looked at me and they were like, "What way do you think the bus is going?" And like I couldn't notice a difference between what way it was going, so I kind of just guessed left, and that was right. But then they asked me to explain why, and I'm like, gotta be honest, that was a complete guess.
That's interesting. No, because they only have like what? It was like 15, 20-minute interviews?
Yeah.
So they don't have that much time, and they have a lot of players to interview. So I'm sure that's interesting to me. The 15, 20 minutes that they asked you about a bus.
Yeah, and they talked about Fortnite.
Yeah, I heard about that too.
I forgot what team. It may have been the Capitals, but they asked if I played Fortnite and all that, and they wanted to keep the conversation going on about Fortnite rather than hockey, and it was kind of funny.
So your roommate at the combine, Blake McLaughlin, he came on the show a few weeks ago, like before the combine, and I mentioned Fortnite. And if you go, when the episode is posted, you go see it, you should see the smile that comes on his face. Like, he's like, "Oh, do you want to talk about Fortnite?" And he's just like smiling. I'm like, man, like, what did I do right now? Like, we're just going to talk about this and forget hockey. That's what we're going to talk about for the rest of the interview.
Let me tell you, Blake, when we were out there, the first day, we were there's a lot of free time. And so we didn't know what to do. And he had a buddy in Buffalo. And so he had him bring him his Xbox. And so that's kind of what we did the whole time, was
Fortnite?
Play Fortnite and go to interviews. And yeah, it was fun.
That sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really like a networking aspect of it, right? Like, I asked Gorniak that as well. Like, you didn't really like get a chance to talk to other players. I mean, you saw your roommate and your partner for the combine test, and that's it, right?
Yeah, I talked to Gorniak a little bit, actually. We played with each other in Elite League. Mm-hmm. We played in a tournament together, and we get along well. So I talked to him a little bit, but not as much so like the Canadians or Swedens. I didn't talk to them much. Mm-hmm. I talked to like Keandre Miller. We're good buddies. And yeah, mainly Blake, because me and him are actually from the same hometown.
Yep.
Elk River, and so yeah, we have a lot in common. We have a lot to talk about, so we get along well.
Talk about where you guys are from. Talk about the hockey, the role hockey has. Is it really big down there? Is it growing? Is it smaller? Like, talk a little bit about that.
Oh, Minnesota high school hockey is huge here. Mm-hmm. That's kind of why it's called the state of hockey for us. Yeah, you grow up playing for your hometown, playing high school for your hometown, and nothing's better. All the fans from the community come and support you, and I really couldn't think of anything better.
It's funny because you weren't even born when the movie came out, but I'm sure the Mighty Ducks movies took place in Minnesota, and we just had Matt Doherty who played Lester. He played Averman. He came on the show, and he was talking about he was actually on the show. So you've been on the same podcast as a guy from the Mighty Ducks, and he was actually talking about how. He would a bunch of them were from Chicago, and how Chicago too is there's so many places in the States. I'm from Canada. The USA Hockey is doing a fantastic job in terms of development.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that. Kind of talk a little bit about that. What are you kind of noticing, from the last couple of years? Because I'm sure you've been to camps. You've had the chance to represent USA on the national stage, I believe, right?
I played with NTDP for about 11 games after last year's high school hockey season.
Yeah.
I haven't been across seas with them yet. Mm-hmm. And so I'm still hopefully going to make one of those teams and looking forward to that. But we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm. And what do you kind of think about the role of school and hockey? I mean, you committed to Notre Dame. I mean, school is a really big part of it. I mean, was it hard to balance, the fact that, you were a student athlete, but you have a role on the ice, but you have a role in the classroom as well. What were kind of some of the things that you've been doing to kind of balance that?
Yeah, it's been crazy. My mom's a teacher, so she's always keeping me on top of things. And Notre Dame, ever since I was 10, me and my buddy Trevor Janicki, who plays for NTDP, we went down there and we did a little camp because his dad went there, and I kind of fell in love with the school. Mm-hmm. And then looking more into it as I started to get better at hockey and they started to talk to me, I was like, oh geez, they're a good school. I really got to study a lot.
Man, you mentioned Trevor Janicki, that I got to bring it up. When I had Oliver Wahlstrom, Joel Farabee, and Bodie Wild, we did an NTDP special, and I asked them around questions who on the team is the funniest, who's the most competitive, who's on their phone the most. So when I said who's the most competitive, Bodie said Trevor Janicki, and then everyone started laughing because he was just Trevor Janicki, that guy just works hard all the time. But I don't know if they were being sarcastic.
Yeah, I don't think they were. It's because for all my life I've known him, and he is definitely the hardest worker that I've ever met. In the classroom too, he's a 4.0 student. He's just crazy smart, and I have to he works towards it, but I have to really work towards getting my grades good. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always talking to teachers after school or just all kinds of things to just keep my grades up, as he's just unbelievably smart.
No, for sure. What are some of the things that you think Jack Perbix has to? I mean, it's a journey. It's a long journey, You have a chance to get your name called up and get drafted to the NHL Draft June 22nd. And then after that, kind of the journey starts, you know what I mean? Going to school, playing hockey, developing your game. What are some of the things that you really want to kind of work on so you can get to that next step and one day play the National Hockey League, Jack?
I want to get stronger as a person, meaning mentally and physically. So physically, I just need to gain more weight and make that into muscle, and I've actually gained about 10 pounds since I've got back from Green Bay, so the past 2 months. And that's really, I think, going to benefit me on the ice as well. Mm-hmm. I think I'm just going to be a better player altogether. For sure.
It's an exciting time, but at the same time, it's overwhelming, and you're going to be thinking about it a lot, and maybe it could become a distraction because it's right there. Are you going to the NHL Draft?
I am not.
Okay.
I don't want to just sit in the crowd and see other guys get picked, and I'm just thinking to myself, I think I'm better than him or this. So mm-hmm. I'm just going to save myself the stress and maybe go down the links and hit the ball around.
How have you been able to kind of keep that in check, the distractions? It's gonna be hard. You're gonna think about it. You're gonna think about it when you're at Green Bay. It's gonna happen. But is there a way to kind of block out the noise a little bit and focus on your season? But it's always gonna be there.
Yeah, To be honest with you, school helps me a lot with blocking it out. Like I'm as of right now, my school ends on Thursday, and so I'm really focused on finals this week. And so I haven't really thought a whole bunch about the NHL draft yet. Like I told my advisor, if any teams have any questions or anything, just let me know. But other than that, I've really been focusing on school and kind of trying to block out hockey. And it's exciting to just know that teams are thinking about drafting you. But yeah, you always know where you're going to go, but you don't know unless you're Rasmus Dahlin or
Well, after Rasmus Dahlin, it can go either way. You know what I mean? And we've seen every year. It's one of those things where usually there's a consensus, but this is a very deep draft year. There's a lot of fantastic forwards and defense. Going down to through all the rounds. And it's one of those things where, do you ever stop and think about the amount of players that have gone drafted that play in the NHL, but there's also undrafted, unsigned players as well, right? So it's one of those things where it's great to get drafted, but it doesn't mean it's over type thing.
Yeah, that's correct. Once you get drafted, that's just kind of like the first step. You gotta get your body ready, mentally ready. You just gotta get ready for what the NHL has to come.
Absolutely. Well, I think we'll wrap up, Jab. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I know it's been a bit of a crazy week for you in Buffalo, but thank you for coming on the show and talking with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. Where can people follow you on social media?
On social media, Instagram, I'm J_Perbix12, and on Twitter, I'm Perbix12, but I have 2 X's in there, so
perfect.
It's a little misspelling, but it was on purpose.
Cool. Well, we wish you all the best come June 22nd for the NHL Draft, man.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Well, this has been Popternative. You can catch previous episodes, Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for the video episodes. In terms of just listening, you can go to iTunes, Spotify, Overcast, CastBox, Podbean. We're everywhere for that. Until next time, this is Jack Perbix and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.